Hello, everyone, and welcome to ITMO, which stands for Instant Transformation. This is when we get together every week at the same time, Wednesdays at 12 noon London time, and we experience our spiritual intelligence together using a very rapid technique called the 3Q method. Now, this week, before we access spiritual intelligence together, I want to spend a few minutes on talking about secular spirituality, because spiritual intelligence is a form of secular spirituality, meaning non-religious spirituality. Now, to help me share this, I want to show you an article and read from this article about secular spirituality. Now, let me just find this article so I can show it to you. Right. Now, you should be seeing on the screen now secular spirituality. And I want to read a little bit from this just to give you a sense of what we're talking about here. By the way, you can see this article on the Spiritual Intelligence website, sqi.co. You'll find a link to it in the description above this video. So the article begins with the secular meaning of spiritual. I'll just read what it says here. Over the centuries, the word spiritual has accumulated a multitude of different theological meanings and associations based on a vast number of different traditions. The spiritual intelligence paradigm cuts through the confusion by defining the meaning of the word spiritual in secular terms, based on the underlying experiential process common to all forms of spiritual realization. This is the meaning of secular spirituality. The core psychological process underlying the early stages of practice in all traditions of spirituality, except in TQ traditions. Now, you can find out what TQ refers to by clicking the link in the text, is the shift in identity from the object pole to the subject pole of attention. This shift results in being identified with consciousness itself, or the soul, instead of being identified with the body and mind, or the ego. With the exception of TQ traditions, the shift from ego to soul underlies all forms of prayer and meditation in every tradition. The SQ paradigm, therefore, represents secular spirituality, founded on experiential reality prior to the superimposition of religious interpretations. The word spiritual means pertaining to spirit. Spirit is the energy of unmodified consciousness itself, free from identification with objects of attention. As the energy and attention of the soul, free from bondage to objects of attention, spirit consists of unmodified source energy in its pure, unadulterated form. Spirit is experienced by all at the subject pole of attention in moments of presence, in the form of wisdom, compassion, integrity, joy, love, creativity, and peace. SQ and religion. The evidence for spiritual intelligence is based on personal experience corroborated by the findings of scientific research. And there's a link there to the scientific research that is the basis for spiritual intelligence. SQ therefore stands apart from religious doctrine and institutional spirituality based on its own empirical foundations. Nevertheless, despite the secular nature of spiritual intelligence, SQ is compatible with religious belief. There's nothing to prevent those with religious beliefs from using empirical SQ methodology to access their own innate spiritual intelligence. Beyond religious belief, spiritual intelligence results from experiencing the soul rather than merely believing in the soul. Mere belief in the soul does nothing to transform the ego. You can still be the ego regardless of what you believe. SQ therefore serves to deepen religious observance by activating the spiritual transformation that is missing from mere belief. In the absence of spiritual intelligence, religious belief is an exercise of the mind that merely consoles the ego without transforming it, whereas SQ represents the spiritual transformation of the ego by means of the shift from ego to soul. So that's taken from the article called Secular Spirituality. So I hope you got the correct impression from that article, which is simply that spirituality in itself is not about believing anything. It's based on personal experience corroborated by scientific research. And it's consistent with the experience of spiritual practice in all spiritual traditions, with the exception of TQ traditions. TQ stands for Transcendental Intelligence. And if you follow the link in the article, you can read about the difference between SQ traditions and TQ traditions. So the whole point of this article is to stress that spirituality does not depend on belief. It's entirely secular. And this, of course, is a revelation for many people because spirituality traditionally was understood to be some sort of faith-based orientation. Well, this is completely false. There's no need to have belief or faith in order to experience your true spiritual nature and in order to activate your spiritual intelligence. So I want to go on now to sharing with you the 3Q method so that we can all experience our spiritual intelligence together based on this very rapid technique of shifting from ego to soul, which is what activates spiritual intelligence. So the symbol on the screen now is a symbol that represents 3 dimensions of intelligence: IQ, intellectual intelligence; EQ, emotional intelligence; and SQ, spiritual intelligence. And this symbol opens out into the twin poles of attention. We have the object pole of attention and the subject pole of attention. At the object pole is everything we're aware of, thoughts and emotions and so on. In other words, all states of body and mind, everything we could possibly be aware of is at the object pole. Whereas at the subject pole of attention is simply consciousness itself, which is aware of objects of attention. Now I want to show you another slide now, which builds on this slide. And It'll just take me a minute to find it here. Here we are. So this slide on the screen now is the same as the last slide with the addition of these two words, ego and soul. So when you identify with objects of attention, when you identify with thoughts and emotions, that's called being the ego. And when you identify with consciousness itself, that's called being the soul. So typically, we're identified with our thoughts and emotions. That is to say, we believe that I am my thoughts and emotions. And that's called being the ego. So this is the ego is the typical state of awareness. Whereas the soul is the nature of our true self, because the soul is identified with consciousness itself. And we are consciousness itself. You can verify that for yourself by just observing that whatever arises to your attention, you are the one aware of it. So you are the consciousness, regardless of what you're aware of. So this diagram on the screen now represents the human operating system. It's how we operate. We're either being the ego or we're being the soul. We're either identified with our thoughts and emotions or we're identified with consciousness itself. So this is true, except in the case of transcendental intelligence, which is prior to the mechanism of attention. So in the absence of transcendental intelligence, we're either being the ego or being the soul. And that's why this diagram on the screen now represents the human operating system. Now, to access spiritual intelligence, we have to shift from ego to soul, from the false self to the true self. And to do so, we have to go through this mechanism of attention, in order to get from ego to soul. So let's have a look at this mechanism now, because it's the key to activating spiritual intelligence. And the question is how to go from the object pole of attention to the subject pole. And it turns out the fastest way is using these 3 steps: notice, feel, and be. And when you exercise these 3 steps in the way I'm about to describe, that's what shifts you from ego to soul, from false self to true self, which activates your spiritual intelligence. So let's have a look now at these 3 steps: notice, feel, and be. Because these 3 steps are called the 3Q method, and this is how we activate spiritual intelligence. So I'll describe these 3 steps now, and as I do so, you can follow the 3 steps and experience these 3 steps yourself, so that you can therefore experience your spiritual intelligence. So step 1 is notice. That means simply to notice the fact that your attention does have these 2 poles, that you're either being your thoughts and emotions, or you're being the consciousness of your thoughts and emotions, one or the other. So that's notice, step 1 of the 3Q method. Simply noticing that this is the human operating system. The second step is feel. And here's where we get to feel what it's like at the subject pole as the soul. Now, to do step 2, feel, we use a breathing technique. So I'll describe this breathing technique now, and you can do it along with me as I describe it. So just bring your attention to your breathing. Notice at the end of the in-breath, there's a slight pause when you're neither breathing in or breathing out. So just find that slight pause at the end of the in-breath when you're neither breathing in or breathing out. This is a completely natural pause. It's important not to hold your breath. The pause is there as a natural part of the breathing cycle. So each time you come to the end of breathing in, just notice there's a very brief pause before you start to breathe out. Just find that pause now. Did you find that pause? Okay. And now that you've found that brief pause at the end of the in-breath, feel what it feels like in that pause. How does it feel for you in that pause at the end of the in-breath when you're neither breathing in or breathing out? How does it feel? Feels peaceful, doesn't it? And the reason why it feels peaceful is because, as you'll notice, in that pause, the thinking mind also pauses. So when there's a pause in the breathing, a natural pause, not when you're holding your breath, when there's a pause in the breathing at the end of the in-breath, there's also a pause in the thinking. And that's why you feel peaceful there, because it's the thinking that introduces all the disturbance. So just find that pause again and feel what it feels like in that pause. Did you find that pause? Did you feel that peace? So that's step 2 of the 3Q method. Feeling that peace. Now, step 3 is be. So I'm going to lead us into step 3 when you reconnect with that peace in step 2. So just find that peaceful feeling at the end of the in-breath, and then I'll lead us into step 3, which is be. So just find that pause at the end of the in-breath and feel the peace there. So when you feel that peace, move to step 3, be, which means be that peaceful feeling. And when you be that peaceful feeling, that simply means allow the peaceful feeling to go all over the body and mind. So first you feel that peace in step 2, in that still point at the end of the in-breath. And then you move to step 3 and you be that peace by allowing the peace to go all over your body and mind. So now you are being the peace of the soul. Now, just to confirm this, take a look around. Just notice you are now being consciousness itself. And within your consciousness, you may be aware that thoughts and emotions resume, they continue to arise, but you're simply being the field of consciousness within which thoughts and emotions arise. So now you can be aware of your thoughts and emotions and perceptions but you're no longer identified with them. You're identified with consciousness instead. And this is called using your spiritual intelligence. So these 3 steps, notice, feel, and be, are the 3Q method. And the beauty of this method is that you can use it at any time, in any circumstances. And when you get good at this, it takes a second or less to actually use these 3 steps and to activate your spiritual intelligence. So now, with this method, you have at your fingertips a way to shift from ego to soul and activate spiritual intelligence that you can use at any time. You can do it walking down the street. You can do it while you're talking to someone. You can do it at work, outside of work. It doesn't interfere with whatever you're doing. It just puts you on a new level while you're doing whatever you're doing, the spiritual intelligence level. So this is a very valuable technique that you can use now for the rest of your life whenever you need to. Now, of course, there are times when it's particularly useful to activate your spiritual intelligence. You know, when you're feeling depressed or bored or anxious or upset for any reason, any state of emotion which is less than happy, that's a good occasion to use your spiritual intelligence, to use these 3 steps. But you can also use these 3 steps at other times. I often use it when I'm in a queue, when I'm waiting. You know, say you're at the supermarket, and there you are in the queue, and the tendency is to let your mind wander. And your mind produces all these thoughts and emotions, normally to which you're identified. And you're full of this or that problem or this or that thought or emotion. And usually it's a repetition of something else that you've thought or felt at other times. It's just really just wasting your time, ruminating, rehearsing thoughts that you've thought a million times already. So, in other words, you're allowing your ego to dominate you. Well, instead of that, you have a perfect alternative. You can use these 3 steps, notice, feel, and be. And then instead of just being the ego, ruminating on pointless thoughts, you can enjoy the experience of spiritual intelligence, which immediately elevates your mood and gives you access to a higher state of awareness. So I hope you'll experiment with this technique when you remember to, so that you can confirm for yourself that this actually does work. So there's a video about this technique which goes into more detail, and you'll find a link to it above the description of this video. Now, we meet every week at the same time to experience our spiritual intelligence together. And we're doing it not just for our own sake. Obviously, it's for our benefit, but also we're doing it for the benefit of the whole world. Now, you might wonder, well, how does that work? How do we benefit the world simply by accessing our own spiritual intelligence? Well, for one thing, it means that the fewer people who are experiencing ego and experiencing their soul, the more the world moves in a positive direction. But it's not merely a matter of numbers, because what we're doing here by activating our spiritual intelligence is we're contributing to collective consciousness. We're contributing a new pathway beyond the ego, which will make it easier for other people to access their spiritual intelligence, just because we're now contributing a new element to collective consciousness. Now, of course, you might ask, well, how do we contribute an element to collective consciousness just by the fact that a few of us are experiencing this together? Well, it's a question of understanding how collective consciousness works. And there's an experiment that was done to illustrate this. This is an experiment called the 100th monkey experiment. It was done in the 1950s by a group of scientists studying monkeys. And they observed that a certain group of monkeys on a certain island began to wash their food in the sea, to wash the sand off before they consumed it. And they discovered that when a group of monkeys, particularly when the group got to 100, this new behavior generalized to the whole island of monkeys, thousands of them. And then the most amazing thing, the most amazing discovery was that once this new behavior had become habitual with one group of monkeys on this island, suddenly other groups of monkeys on other islands, not connected to this island, also began to do the same thing quite spontaneously. And so what was understood is that there's a collective consciousness that monkeys share, and that when one group of monkeys learns a new skill, this new skill is contributed to the collective consciousness that all monkeys have access to. And therefore monkeys in other parts of the world, not connected with this first island, began to behave in the same way. They had learned from the collective consciousness of monkeys, which had been enlarged by this first group of monkeys. Now it's the same with us humans. There's a collective human consciousness. And when a new behavior, a new capability is added to collective consciousness by one group of humans, then this new capability is made accessible to all humans. And that's why when we get together every week and use the 3Q method to activate spiritual intelligence, we're contributing a new pathway to collective human consciousness, which then others can learn from and benefit from. So by getting together every week at the same time, Wednesdays at 12 noon London time, we're actually contributing a new method, a new pathway to collective human consciousness, which can benefit all human beings. So that's how we're contributing to the raising of collective human consciousness. So I hope you'll join us next week live if you can. If not, you can watch the recording so that we can all benefit from learning how to experience spiritual intelligence, and so we can contribute to raising collective consciousness worldwide, which will result in improving conditions in the world. So I'll say goodbye for now, and I hope to see you next week. Bye for now.